All right, first things first, Steven, how are you?
Yeah, fine. We just came back from the Feuerschwanz tour like 2 days ago. I'm still a bit tour jet lagged, so if I seem to be a bit confused, could
And
be.
I spoke with Hauptmann not too long ago, maybe a week or so ago. So
Yeah,
Feuerschwanz and also I believe Dominum that is on tour. What is this kind of group of these power metal bands that and going on tour together? What is that like?
and when Zaid came up with the proposal of the Feuerschwanz tour, it was like, hey, we have the option to go to tour with Feuerschwanz, and back then it was still Angus, and I was like, really? And also the other three guys were like, Sid, really? And he said, yeah, it's a good option. Look at the venues we're playing, so gathering some new people. And we were like, okay, but not fully convinced. This was really like till the first day of the tour when we met everybody. And from the first second, everyone was so super nice and so super cool. And we felt perfectly welcome. And then the show started, and it was like party until the first second. And then all the way through the 4 weeks of the tour, this was such a beautiful tour. You know, it's one of the best I've ever been on my entire career for the last 25 years, something like
Okay.
that. And yeah, it was super easy to do. Everyone was super friendly, super nice. The audiences were like, at first, they were, I guess, some were a bit scared. I was grumpy old man, like doing the heavy shit. But then, yeah, you were welcomed with open arms.
Oh, that's really
Worked out
cool to
really,
hear.
really good for us.
Yeah, that's really awesome
Yeah.
to hear. And well, I asked Feuerschwanz this, but because they've been on a steady kind of climb and getting more
Mm.
successful with each album, and I think the same is true for you guys. And there have been bands, or there are bands like Powerwolf and coming out of Germany. What do you think is the attraction of bands like you? Why do you think it's living so strong, or it's going so well for bands like yourself?
It's just a tough one, you know. I just it kind of struck a nerve. Orden Ogan has had his 15th anniversary last year. Feuerschwanz are doing it already for 20 years. So
Yeah.
it's not that these bands come out of nowhere, you know. So it was for all bands like Feuerschwanz, us. It was a steady build-up. You know, we worked our asses off for years and years and years. And yeah, you know, finally we see the results. And this is cool to see, you know. It was like
Mm.
we've been watching the Feuerschwanz show every night, and to see this inferno they started every night from song one, this was really cool. And you know, we've we've had the same picture from the stage every night. Dominum had the same picture from the stage every night, so there is an audience there, and
Mm.
we're just happy to finally be able to play to them.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. And before we get into the album, The Order of Fear, I would like to go back into your history just a little bit. Now, do you remember what made you want to be a musician? Was there just a band, a song, something that kind of ignited that passion in you?
Yeah, I come from a small village of the German countryside, so you don't have many options.
Mm.
It's either like playing soccer or like being in the fire brigade or whatever, and that has never been my thing. You know, it was back in 1991 when my older brother took me to the Skid Row show. I was
Okay.
like 12 years old, and the lights went down, and I saw Rachel Bowen run on stage and going into the first whistle snake through the like, taka, taka, taka. And I was like, okay, now I know what I'm going to do. Yeah. And this was it.
And what is your personal ambition within kind of this whole world of music? Obviously, you know, in a band and that has their own set of goals, I suppose. But for you personally, uh, what has been the driving force behind what you do? Is it kind of a certain skill level? Is it certain creative output? What are you looking for?
You know, I I never wanted to be a big Rosso or best bass player in the world. That's to me that's rubbish. You know, all I want to do is to entertain people. You know, when I stand on the stage and I see these happy faces, and when you're playing a sad song, a song that means something to people, you know, I just see people cry, and so I do something that matters. And
Mm,
I know it's just music, you know. I'm not solving the world's problems, but at least in these 2 hours or 1 hour or whatever, I can do something that makes the world better. This has always been my thing within this whole musician universe.
sure. But I can imagine, does music, and it doesn't have to be listening to music, but for you creating music as well, does that have a same effect on you where it's kind of an escape, or those 2 hours on stage where you play, you can forget about everything?
Of course, you know, this is for me it's like really dropping into a zone.
Mm.
Does not work every night, but it's like often when I come off stage and I can barely remember the last 15 minutes because I just was running around smiling and doing what I do.
Oh, that's really cool. Um, I believe you joined the band in 2019. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, yeah, in
So,
October 2019.
okay. So first, what were your impressions at that point of the band, and were they met or were they very different once you joined? And then also, how do you look back at Final Days as kind of the first album that you were part of?
Hmm. Uh, our history goes back a few years. I met those guys in 2015 when my
Okay.
former band, Orden Ogan, we shared a bus on a tours upon Powell. So, and it was like really the bus rolled into the spot of our rehearsal place. The door opened, the guys came out, and it was like, yeah, we like each other. And we're like super funny weeks on the bus, and we stayed in touch, and we became friends actually. And when after I left Zambia, I was really done with this music thing because we've been touring a lot and
Mm,
it's stressful. I was just yeah, it's over now, and I've had my fair share, my 15 minutes of fame,
sure.
and I never expected to go back into the professional music thing. When one day Save called and he was like, "Hey, dude, what are you doing at the moment?" Nothing, you know. I'm just building a camper van for me and my family. That's all. I say, yeah, I want to come by and play a show. Yeah, why not? Because they were in this state where actually Zay broke his hand and Niels
Right.
switched back from bass to guitar, and so they like the bass player. We did this special pirate cruise show together. It's more like our fan event, and it was nice. We had a great day together, and then we parted our ways. Like 3 weeks later, he called me again and said, "Hey, we're having a DVD shoot. Um, would you mind coming in and play another show?" Yeah, of course. Why not? Huh? And same thing, you know, we had a great day, we parted ways, and again, like 4 weeks later, Steve called me again. Hey, dude, now what's up now? Why you're asking? You want to play bass in Orden Ogan? Well, yeah, why not? You know? Okay, bye. Hey, we're gonna see you next week. And that was all. So now I was the bass player of Orden Ogan.
That's
So
really
it's really
awesome.
easy. So, and
Very quickly in between, so sorry to interrupt, but very
yeah,
quickly in between that period where you were not in a band and you were just kind of you've almost mentally decided, well, I had my fun and now I have to get back to reality, so to say. What was that period like for you? Did you miss the music, and did you kind of were you kind of yearning for being in a band again, or was it kind of like, okay, we'll see what happens?
In that period of time, I had so many other things to do.
Okay,
So I really did not have the time to miss something.
okay,
Um, but back when I was back on stage again with Orden Ogan, then I knew what I missed. And also
mm,
my wife said, dude, you missed it, right? So yeah, I really did. And then it was these dark years when we weren't allowed to do
sure,
anything. Then I really felt what I was missing. You know, it was so like somebody ripped my heart out. You know?
sure.
I still wanted to go back on stage, back out on the road, but it just wasn't possible.
Mm,
And yeah, so we can come now full circle to Final Days. Um, it became kind of a lost album. Let's call it like this, because we somehow had to release it in the middle of this pandemic,
sure.
because we thought, okay, maybe now we would be able to do a tour, and so let's give the people the record. But yeah, I mean, the rest is history. We had to cancel the tour, and we barely played like shows for the whole
Mm.
record, and that's that's what happened.
It- The way listening to the Order of Fear, then musically, was that a reaction to Final Days in a way? I don't know if that makes sense, but I really feel like the Final Days album, as you mentioned, you couldn't tour it, so you're really in the studio, kind of figuring that music out. And then with the Order of Fear, it's all a little bit more stripped back, a little more to the point.
Mhm.
Was that a reaction, kind of, to the process of Final Days, or no?
No, not really.
Okay,
Mm, yeah, I have to admit, we got a bit stuck, you know, after Final Days and the few shows we played after the release of Final Days. We were like, okay, what we're going to do next? Um, we got the office to a few tours. They weren't that attractive. So we decided, okay, then instead, let's pull the plug and let's do just another record. And at first, you know, all the ideas that were there, they were not.
mm,
Let's keep it like this.
sure,
And it really took a while till the producers were flowing, and they came up with all the amazing songs that now ended up on the record. And so it wasn't an easy work, that one. And it also was a reaction. A lot of people I've been talking to in the past few weeks were like, yeah, the record is much more traditional, much more back to the roots. And I was like, really? I don't know, maybe. So to me, Final Days was also a typical Orden Ogan record with a bit more modern twist that
okay,
fit much more to this overall lyrical topic, like this
sure,
Final Days like sci-fi thing. And with the Order of Fear, we're going back to the base story, and so it was quite natural to let the record sound more like this back to the roots stuff. You know,
mm,
although if you ask me, it's not back to the roots.
okay. You mentioned kind of getting stuck during the writing process a little bit. Now that the way you kind of got out of it, and I don't know if I understand this correctly, but you found a Uruguayan a musician who
Yeah.
kind of did cover versions. So how did kind of seeing what he did with your your music, how did that influence you to get through that songwriting process?
You know, it was kind of funny because that dude, he he's, if I get that right, he's kind of self-taught musician. He has
Okay.
some really weird playing techniques, and he did awesome cover versions of our old songs. And then one day he sent me some files of music and said, hey, what do you think? Yeah, that's weird. Sounds like old school or old. He's like, yeah, this guy from Uruguay, Sandy. I asked him if he could maybe write a song because, he knows the Orden Ogan DNA. It seems like he knows his DNA better than we do. If it's like that, he knows every song and every lick. And I was like, he did what? He wrote these songs, yeah, like 5 songs within a day. And I was like, okay, that's weird. And this really was the kickstart for Steve to go back into the creative process, and not everything that Science sent was finally made into the record, but always some bits and parts of a few songs. But we're forever grateful that he gave this kick in the ass to finally get it going.
Yeah, I think, and I think it was mentioned in the bio a little bit as well, but getting an outside perspective and kind of just getting outside of your own bubble and
Yeah,
see how somebody else sees what you do, that can be really motivating, I suppose.
absolutely. As I said, he knows every bit and part of every song, and this is something you really using your perspective while you do it. As I said, for many people, Fine Days was like super modern and super not what they like. Which I'm like, hey, what are you talking about? A song like Your Stellar or Let the Fire Rain can't get more audible. Right? But this is the view of a person who was there from day one of songwriting and not from fan.
Yeah.
So to get that fan perspective into the songwriting team, this is quite precious.
One thing I kind of had in my mind is when I was listening to the album, I was thinking a lot of these songs would do great live. So is that something that's in the back of the band's kind of mind when you're working on these songs?
In that case, yes, no, because when we put the live sets together, for us it was really hard. So most of the songs were perfectly in the record, but when it comes to live, now a lot of them are just too long. If you have a 6.5 minute song on the record, it's super fun to listen to it, but live, when you don't get to the point after 4 minutes, people get bored, and it's also super hard to put on a proper live set. Like a lot of 6 minute songs, and you have only a 45 minute slot on festival. So we try to tighten up the songwriting just to have just the essence of the songs, and not that much around the core of the song. We have 2 epic songs by the end of the record, but also a lot of songs that just they want they want to be played live. Songs like Moonfire, The Order of the Year, Conquest, Kings of the Underworld, all those songs they're designed to be the perfect live tracks.
Yeah, I was gonna say Moonfire as well. That riff really sticks out from again from the get-go. As soon as the song starts, it's kind of in your face, and I really like that. In terms of the story then, because one thing I think the band does really well is you have this overarching story of Alistair Vale, but then within that there are these kind of more moral questions that are asked, or more kind of just looking at things that happen in society. For instance, My Worst Enemy, looking at kind of people struggling with their demons, and I'm sure everybody has their version of that. What are your thoughts on My Worst Enemy? Not just the lyrical content, but also kind of the more ballady approach to that song.
Orden always had these strong ballads. It was Alone in the Dark on the last record. On this one, it's My Worst Enemy. But what's really new is that you kind of totally with the lyrical concept. Usually, you say, okay, these are our lyrics. we give them to you, and now have your own thoughts. You know?
Mm,
The Alistair Bale's story is something different, but the Maoist enemy, you know, especially after the last few years, everyone felt how it is to deal with some mental health issues. Maybe a
mm,
bit too much, but just mental problems with like looking into the doctors. Um, so we thought it would be just fair to let the people know, hey, you're not alone. We're with you. We got you, and we're feeling the same way you do. You know, and, this song was all those lyrics. They were made out of quite some, yeah, quite a dark period also for Save 2.
mm.
Um, I'm not going too much into detail,
No, no,
but
sure.
this is just our way to show people that we're none other than anyone.
Yeah, and I think like you mentioned in the beginning with playing live and giving people that hour of entertainment or 2 hours of entertainment and kind of getting out of your. I mean, the power of music is really interesting. From your perspective, if you look out at the audience, you kind of mentioned it in the beginning, but the fact that you can affect people with music, what does that do to you?
And to me, it's as I said, it's my reason that for playing music, you know, that I can affect people, and I always try to do it in a positive way. And I just looking back on the first show we played after the whole pandemic thing, it was the Alcatraz Festival in Belgium.
Mm,
And, you know, all the musicians, they were in a very special mood because it was for most of them, it was the first show after the whole lockdowns. And I just remember walking on stage and seeing the people cheering and screaming, and tears rolled down my face. And I looked to the left, and everyone was holding back their tears. And so it's not just us fighting the people; it's also the people give the energy back. You know?
mm. No, that's
That's all.
beautiful. And I've one last question. Well, this is kind of two questions. One, are you now fully back in terms of being a musician, and you're kind of okay? I've had my little break, but now now I'm fully in again.
Actually, you just caught me up in my lunch break.
Okay.
No, when Corona hit, I went back into my old job, which I still do for a few hours a week.
Okay.
Um, and so I'm not fully back into it, but I will be when the summer comes. So that's the reality of being a rock star in 2024.
Well, that's such an interesting, and we can talk hours about this, but very quickly then, because I interviewed the band yesterday, and in one of the songs they had a line like can't remember what it was, but something like the poets and the artists are working in banks these days. So it's kind of the industry of music and the value of music, because here in the Netherlands, for instance, during COVID, there was this whole thing going on about where artists weren't getting paid for high profile gigs. Basically, they were told, well, you're getting exposure, so that's enough. What are your thoughts on the value of music these days?
Mm, big change, you know. I had a lot of discussions also on the last show that the whole music and big thing became more and more like an event thing. You know, it's not only about like creating arts and people loving music just for being arts. You know, I remember back then when I saw bands like Pantera live, it was just like four guys, a couple of lights, and some amps on stage, and that was enough. You know, they
Mm,
put on a cool show, and everyone was happy. And these days, you really have to put on a killer show even in the smallest venue, then people see it as an event that's worth like spending your money,
Mm,
which is okay. You know?
sure.
But this is something that has changed. So has the value really changed? You know, we have 2024. You know, you barely have record shops. People don't buy CDs anymore. I'm one of the last dinosaurs who just involves that dirty stuff. But you know, most people use Spotify and they don't make money. That's no secret.
Sure.
So we think we're actually making money. We are getting paid as well, being on the road, you know, playing shows, selling merch. That's the thing. Usually, when you're playing a lot of shows, you can make a living on it. You're not getting rich, most likely never will be, but you can make a living on it. But once you're at home, you're not playing shows. You have to do something. So I have a small
Mm.
business one. Safe is producing other bands. You know, Jake works as a drum teacher, and so on. Everyone has this little things going on just to keep the fridge full.
Yeah, but I always like those. Well, that it's not obviously it's not ideal, but I like it because it shows the kind of determination and passion you need to have to be in the music industry and to pursue that dream. So I always think it's, even though it's obviously not ideal, but I think it's nice to see that the ones who truly are passionate about it, they will find a way to do it. So that's always very encouraging, I think. Well, Steven, may I thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me, and I wish you all
You're
the
welcome.
best in the coming weeks and everything that's going to happen this summer. So best of luck.
Thank you.